Life Stories invites you to discover an inspiring tale of resilience, kindness, and transformation. In today's story, we meet Mary, a humble woman whose life takes a dramatic turn after she experiences humiliation at a high-end jewelry store. What begins as a moment of pain becomes a journey of empowerment, as Mary turns adversity into a mission to create a place where respect and inclusivity shine brighter than any gem. Her story will touch your heart and remind you of the power of courage and compassion. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories to begin today's journey with us. Mary adjusted her woolen scarf, its edges frayed from years of use, and tightened her grip on the cloth bag she carried. The bustling streets of Chicago felt overwhelming to her, a stark contrast to the quiet rural town she called home. But today wasn't just any day, today was the day she would finally purchase the gift she had been saving for over the years. It wasn't just a necklace, it was a symbol of her love and pride for her granddaughter, Emma, who was soon to be married. As Mary approached Radiant Gem Jewelers, the store shimmered under the city lights, its grand golden letters announcing its presence to the world. The glint of the jewelry in the window displays was mesmerizing. Inside, customers dressed in sharp suits and elegant dresses moved gracefully, as though they belonged to a different world entirely. Mary hesitated for a moment, looking down at her modest attire, then pushed the door open, triggering a soft chime from the bell above. The interior was stunning. Gleaming glass cases lined with exquisite jewelry reflected warm golden lighting, creating an atmosphere of luxury. Mary's heart swelled with both awe and nervousness. She had seen the necklace before, a delicate silver piece adorned with a sapphire blue stone, resting in the far corner of the display. It had taken her years of frugality and hard work, baking pies, mending clothes, and selling produce to save enough for this moment. "Good morning," Mary greeted softly as she approached the counter where a young woman, Amanda, stood behind the glass. Amanda, impeccably dressed in a tailored uniform, glanced at Mary from head to toe, her icy gaze lingering on Mary's worn scarf and old handbag. Her lips curved into a faint, dismissive smirk. "Which necklace are you looking for?" Amanda asked. Her voice clipped. Mary pointed toward the far corner. "The silver one with the blue stone. It's beautiful, isn't it?" Amanda's eyes narrowed as she looked at the necklace. "That one? It's quite expensive. Are you sure you want to see it?" Mary felt her cheeks flush. "Yes. I've saved for it. I'd like to purchase it." Amanda raised an eyebrow and then, as though addressing someone unworthy of her time, turned to the manager, Mr. Thompson. He was a tall man in a sharp suit, with an expression that exuded self-importance. Amanda gestured discreetly toward Mary, and the two exchanged knowing glances. "This woman wants to see the necklace with the blue stone," Amanda said, her tone barely concealing her skepticism. Mr. Thompson approached slowly, his polished shoes clicking against the tiled floor. "That necklace is not for sale," he said curtly, not even bothering to make eye contact with Mary. "But it's in the display," Mary replied, her voice trembling slightly. "Surely, it's meant to be sold. It's a display piece," Mr. Thompson said dismissively, turning away. "We can show you other items. Perhaps something more suitable for your budget." Mary stood frozen, trying to process his words. Other items? Suitable for her budget? She looked at Amanda, hoping for some understanding. But Amanda merely exchanged a smirk with another employee, Rick, who stood polishing a display case nearby. Rick leaned over and whispered to Amanda, loud enough for Mary to hear, "Just look at her. She probably can't even afford the box it comes in." Amanda stifled a laugh and whispered back, "She should try a flea market instead." The words hit Mary like a blow to the chest. Her heart ached, not just from the insult but from the sheer injustice of being judged based on her appearance. Swallowing the lump in her throat, she approached another counter where Rick now stood. "Excuse me," Mary said, her voice firmer. "I'd like to see the necklace." Rick didn't even glance up from the display he was cleaning. "We don't sell cheap items here. Maybe check out smaller shops down the street." Mary opened her bag and carefully retrieved an envelope filled with cash. Years' worth of careful savings. "I have the money," she said, holding it out as proof. "Please. Let me see the necklace." Rick finally looked up. But instead of assisting her, he let out a derisive chuckle. "Cash? We only deal with cards or bank transfers. This isn't the place for you." The humiliation was unbearable. Mary felt her face flush as tears threatened to spill. She turned to leave, clutching her envelope tightly, but not before hearing Amanda's voice again. "Can you believe she came in here thinking she could buy something?" Amanda said, laughing softly. "Some people just don't know their place." The laughter followed Mary out the door, echoing in her mind as she stepped back into the cold Chicago air. She stood on the sidewalk, trembling from a mix of humiliation and anger. Her breath came in shallow gasps as she tried to hold back the tears that now spilled freely down her cheeks. "Why do they treat me like this?" she whispered to herself. "Just because I'm not dressed like them?" She gripped the envelope tightly, her knuckles white, and thought of her granddaughter's smile. This necklace was supposed to be a symbol of joy and love, but now it felt tainted by shame. But amidst her despair, a flicker of determination began to rise. She wiped her tears and straightened her back. "I'll come back," she whispered. "Not as who they see me, but as who I truly am." The small flame of defiance in Mary's heart refused to be extinguished. As she walked away, her mind raced with thoughts of what to do next. What had begun as a simple desire to bring happiness to her granddaughter now felt like a battle for her dignity, a battle she was unwilling to lose. Mary sat on the edge of her small kitchen table that evening, the envelope of cash still clutched in her trembling hands. The events of the day replayed in her mind, the cold stares, the mocking laughter, and the dismissive words. The humiliation was raw. But beneath the pain, something else stirred. For years, Mary had been known in her small rural town as a kind and humble woman, someone who worked hard and gave selflessly to others. Yet, in the gleaming jewelry store in Chicago, she had been treated as if her value was determined solely by her outward appearance. She poured herself a cup of tea, her hands still shaking slightly, and stared out the window into the quiet darkness. The thought of her granddaughter Emma gave her a sliver of solace. Emma had always been the light in Mary's life, bright, loving, and endlessly grateful. This necklace wasn't just a gift, it was a message to Emma that no matter how hard life got, beauty and love could always prevail. Mary's thoughts were interrupted by the memory of a voice she had heard earlier that day, a warm, deep voice that had stopped her in the park. "Are you all right?" the man had asked. His name was Robert, an older gentleman with a polished cane and a presence that exuded both kindness and wisdom. Though Mary had been hesitant to open up, something in Robert's demeanor put her at ease. She told him everything, the ridicule, the insults, the heartbreak of feeling unseen and unworthy. As she spoke, Robert listened intently, his expression shifting from concern to indignation. "This is unacceptable," he had said, his voice firm. "People like that think they can measure someone's worth by their clothing or their wallet. They forget that character and kindness mean far more than wealth." Mary had nodded, but her voice was hesitant. "But what can I do? I'm just an ordinary woman. I don't have power or influence." Robert had leaned forward, his eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that surprised her. "Sometimes, power isn't about money or status. It's about knowing your own worth and refusing to let others define it. You have more strength than you realize, Mary. Don't let their arrogance rob you of your dignity." Those words lingered in Mary's mind as she sat in her kitchen that night. Strength, dignity, worth. She thought of all the times she had been underestimated, the countless moments when her contributions to her community had gone unnoticed. She had always accepted it as a fact of life. But now, something inside her rebelled. Why should she accept it anymore? Mary reached for a notepad and began to write. Her first letter was addressed to her granddaughter. Though she didn't reveal the events of the day, she promised Emma that the necklace would be hers, no matter what. The second letter was more formal, written with an air of determination she hadn't realized she possessed. It was addressed to a man named Mr. Daniels, a lawyer Robert had recommended earlier that day. Robert had assured her that Mr. Daniels was discreet, competent, and capable of handling delicate matters. The letter to Mr. Daniels outlined her intention to purchase Radiant Gem Jewelers. It was a bold move, perhaps too bold, but Mary had already made up her mind. If the employees at that store could treat her and others so poorly, then the problem wasn't just with the staff. It was with the entire way the store operated. Mary's goal wasn't just to own the store, it was to transform it into a place where everyone, regardless of their appearance or background, could feel valued. Over the next week, Mary worked closely with Mr. Daniels, who quickly confirmed that Radiant Gem Jewelers was part of a chain that had been looking to sell off some underperforming branches. The deal was straightforward, though time-sensitive. Mary used her savings, along with a modest loan Robert helped her secure, to finalize the purchase. By the end of the week, the store was hers. When Mr. Daniels called to confirm the transaction, Mary felt a strange mix of emotions: pride, disbelief, and a twinge of fear. "Congratulations, Mrs. Taylor," Mr. Daniels said over the phone. "As of today, you're the owner of Radiant Gem Jewelers." Mary sat in silence for a moment, letting the words sink in. Owner. She had gone from being dismissed and ridiculed to owning the very place where she had been humiliated. But this wasn't about revenge. This was about something deeper, a chance to rewrite the narrative. Not just for herself but for anyone who had ever been made to feel small. Before hanging up, Mary made one last request to Mr. Daniels. "Please don't tell anyone." "Not yet. I want to see how they treat people when they don't know I'm the owner." "Of course," Mr. Daniels replied. "This will remain between us." As Mary set the phone down, a faint smile crossed her lips. She knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in days, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. This wasn't just about a necklace anymore. It was about proving a point that respect should never be a privilege reserved for the wealthy or the well-dressed. And Mary was ready to make that point loud and clear. Mary stood outside Radiant Gem Jewelers the next morning, the cold Chicago air brushing against her face. She had exchanged her frayed scarf for a clean but simple wool one, tied neatly around her neck. Her coat, though still modest, had been carefully brushed and buttoned. Clutching her cloth bag, she took a deep breath before pushing open the door. The familiar chime of the bell echoed, and as she stepped inside, she steeled herself for what lay ahead. The atmosphere in the store hadn't changed. The golden lights shimmered across polished jewelry cases, and the staff moved about with an air of superiority. Mary caught sight of Amanda immediately. The young clerk was busy speaking with a well-dressed couple, her voice honeyed and her smile bright. Noticing Mary's entrance, Amanda's expression faltered for a brief moment, replaced by a flash of irritation. She leaned toward Rick, who was rearranging a display, and whispered something. Both chuckled, throwing subtle glances in Mary's direction. Mary pretended not to notice. She walked deliberately toward a counter manned by Sarah, the oldest employee in the store. Sarah's demeanor was different, reserved but not unkind. When Mary greeted her with a quiet good morning, Sarah hesitated before offering a polite nod. "Can I help you with something?" Sarah asked, her tone neutral. "Yes," Mary replied, pointing to a modest silver ring in the display. "Could you show me this one?" Sarah hesitated for a moment before retrieving the ring. She placed it on the counter, her movements careful but devoid of warmth. "It's $120, she said plainly. Mary pretended to consider the price, feigning hesitation. "That's quite expensive," she murmured, watching Sarah's reaction closely. Sarah didn't say anything, But Amanda, standing a few feet away, let out a soft laugh. If it's too much, maybe she should try the thrift store down the street, Amanda said in a stage whisper to Rick. Mary clenched her jaw but remained composed. Thank you for showing it to me, she told Sarah, her voice steady. I'm just browsing today. Sarah gave a curt nod and returned the ring to its place. As Mary walked away, she overheard Rick mutter, "She's wasting her time here. Probably just looking for free air conditioning." The sting of their words was real. But Mary reminded herself why she was here. She wasn't just gathering evidence of their behavior, she was trying to understand the store's culture from within. It was becoming increasingly clear that the issues extended far beyond a single interaction. The store had fostered an environment where judgment and exclusion thrived. Mary lingered in the store for another hour, quietly observing. She noticed how Amanda and Rick would light up with enthusiasm when greeting wealthy customers but barely acknowledged those who appeared modestly dressed. Sarah, though less overtly hostile, seemed to follow the unspoken rule of prioritizing appearances. Mary's suspicions about the store's systemic bias were confirmed when she saw a middle-aged woman in simple clothes being ignored by Amanda, despite her repeated attempts to get assistance. As Mary stepped outside, her heart felt heavy with a mix of anger and determination. She knew she couldn't act rashly, there was still more to uncover. She needed to understand the full extent of the problem before making any changes. That evening, she met with Mr. Daniels in her small kitchen. The lawyer listened carefully as Mary recounted everything she had witnessed. "It's worse than I thought," Mary said, her voice trembling with both frustration and resolve. "They don't just treat me like this, they treat anyone who doesn't fit their idea of what a real customer looks like the same way." Mr. Daniels nodded thoughtfully. "We need to document this thoroughly. Would you like me to hire someone to act as an undercover customer? It might give us a clearer picture." Mary considered his suggestion but shook her head. "No. I need to do this myself. If I'm going to fix this place, I need to see it through my own eyes." Over the next week, Mary returned to the store several times, each visit reaffirming her observations. She watched as Amanda openly mocked customers. Rick avoided interactions altogether, and Sarah hesitated to engage unless absolutely necessary. The lack of respect wasn't limited to customers either. Mary overheard Amanda belittling a junior employee for not arranging a display to her liking. As Mary reflected on what she had seen, she realized that the culture at Radiant Gem Jewelers wasn't just problematic, it was toxic. Yet, amidst the frustration, she felt a growing sense of purpose. She wasn't just here to demand respect for herself, she was here to rebuild a place that had lost its way. Before leaving the store one final time, Mary approached Sarah. "Thank you for your help earlier," she said warmly. "You were kind. Even if you hesitated." Sarah looked surprised, as though she wasn't accustomed to being thanked. "You're welcome," she replied quietly, her eyes briefly meeting Mary's before darting away. As Mary stepped back onto the bustling Chicago street, she felt a renewed sense of determination. The road ahead would be challenging, but she knew one thing for certain: change was coming to Radiant Gem Jewelers. And it would start with her. The golden light of a crisp morning illuminated the facade of Radiant Gem Jewelers as Mary approached, her steps deliberate and resolute. This time, she wasn't just a customer trying to buy a necklace, she was the owner of the store, ready to take control. Clad in a tailored dark dress with an understated silk scarf replacing her old woolen one, Mary carried herself with quiet authority. Her heart beat a little faster as she stepped through the door, but her determination grounded her. The familiar chime of the bell rang out, catching the attention of the staff. Amanda glanced up first, her expression immediately souring. She leaned toward Rick, muttering, "Her again? Why does she keep coming back?" Rick shrugged, barely concealing his disdain. "Probably hoping for a handout," he said with a smirk. Ignoring their whispers, Mary walked to the center of the store and took a long, deliberate look around. The staff exchanged uneasy glances as her presence seemed different, confident. unyielding. Finally, Amanda straightened and approached her, her tone sharp. If you're not planning to make a purchase, I'll have to ask you to leave. Mary raised her chin, her gaze steady. Everyone, gather here. Now. Amanda blinked, taken aback by the firmness in Mary's voice. Excuse me, she said, her irritation evident. I said, gather here. This is not a request. Mary repeated, her voice cutting through the quiet murmur of the store. At that moment, Mr. Thompson, the manager, emerged from the back office, a folder in hand. He frowned when he saw Mary, his expression quickly morphing into his usual dismissive sneer. If you're not here to shop, you're disrupting our operations. I'll have to ask you to leave immediately. Mary turned to him, her eyes narrowing. Do you think I don't belong here, Mr. Thompson? Well, frankly, no. This is a high-end establishment. Not a place for someone like me. Mary interrupted, her voice rising slightly. Let me show you how wrong you are. With that, Mary reached into her bag and pulled out a folder of her own. She placed it on the glass counter with a firm motion, causing everyone's attention to snap toward her. These are the documents confirming that as of last week, I am the new owner of Radiant Gem Jewelers. The room fell silent. Amanda's face went pale, her usual confidence replaced by visible confusion and panic. Rick froze mid-step, while Mr. Thompson's jaw tightened, his eyes darting toward the folder as if hoping it might prove otherwise. You must be joking. Amanda finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. She's not joking, came another voice. Mr. Daniels stepped into the store, his professional demeanor adding an undeniable weight to Mary's statement. I facilitated the sale myself. Mrs. Taylor is now the sole owner of this establishment. Amanda staggered back a step, her eyes wide. Rick's mouth opened as if to protest, but no words came out. Mr. Thompson, however, attempted to compose himself. This is highly irregular, he said, his voice faltering. Surely, you don't plan to what? To fire those who have disrespected me and countless others? Mary's voice was calm but sharp, each word slicing through the silence. Oh, I most certainly do. She turned to Amanda first, her gaze unwavering. You, Amanda, mocked customers, ridiculed them openly, and failed to fulfill even the most basic responsibilities of your job. You are fired. Effective immediately. Amanda's face turned a deep shade of red. You can't. I can. And I just did. Mary interrupted. Pack your things and leave. Rick stepped forward, his voice defensive. I didn't do anything wrong. Mary's gaze snapped to him. You avoided helping customers, dismissed their questions, and joined in the mockery. Your lack of professionalism is unacceptable. You are also fired. Rick's face fell, his bravado crumbling. He muttered something under his breath but didn't dare argue further. Finally, Mary turned to Mr. Thompson, the man whose condescension had been the most infuriating of all. And you, Mr. Thompson, as the manager, you set the tone for this store. Your arrogance, your refusal to assist customers, and your utter failure to lead by example have poisoned this environment. You're fired as well. Mr. Thompson's composure finally broke. I've been here for years. You can't replace me overnight. You're right. Mary replied coolly. It will take time to fix what you've ruined. But replacing you is the first step. The dismissed employees stood frozen, their disbelief palpable. Mary looked at the remaining staff, including Sarah, who had stayed at the back, watching quietly. As for the rest of you, Mary said, her tone softening slightly, I'm not here to destroy this store. I'm here to transform it. But make no mistake, if you cannot commit to treating every customer with respect, no matter how they look or where they come from, you have no place here. The weight of her words hung in the air as the staff absorbed what had just happened. Sarah stepped forward hesitantly. I'd like to stay, she said, her voice earnest. I've seen what's wrong here, and I want to help make it right. Mary nodded, a faint smile breaking through her stern demeanor. Thank you, Sarah. I believe you will. As the dismissed employees left the store one by one, their faces a mix of anger and humiliation, Mary turned to Mr. Daniels. This is just the beginning, she said, her voice quiet but firm. That it is, he replied, admiration evident in his tone. For the first time in weeks, Mary felt a sense of peace. She had reclaimed her dignity, not through revenge but through justice. The real work of transformation was about to begin. The next morning, Radiant Gem Jewelers felt different. The air, once heavy with tension and arrogance, carried a sense of uncertainty and potential. Mary arrived early, her heels clicking against the polished floor as she surveyed the store with fresh eyes. The previous day's confrontation was only the first step. Now, she had to rebuild. Not just the staff but the very heart of the store. Sarah was already waiting in the break room when Mary entered. The older employee, though nervous, met Mary's gaze with determination. I appreciate you giving me a chance to stay, she said softly. You've earned it. Mary replied, her tone warm but firm. I've seen moments of decency in you, Sarah. I need you to lead by example. This store can't succeed without someone who understands the importance of treating customers with respect. Sarah nodded, her expression a mix of gratitude and resolve. I'll do my best. Mary spent the rest of the morning reviewing files and assessing the remaining staff. Those who stayed were either new hires or employees who had kept a low profile amidst the toxic culture. Mary addressed them during a brief meeting in the office. Starting today, this store will operate under a new set of values, she began, her voice steady. Respect, sincerity, and inclusivity. These aren't just words to hang on a wall. They're the foundation of how we will treat every customer and each other. If anyone feels they can't commit to this, now is the time to leave. The employees exchanged glances, but no one moved to leave, encouraged by their silence. Mary continued. Sarah will oversee the training of new hires. Isabel, who was dismissed yesterday, left gaps in our operations. So I'll be stepping in to oversee inventory until we hire someone capable. This will be a team effort, and I expect everyone to contribute. The staff nodded in agreement, some looking nervous but others inspired by Mary's conviction. After the meeting, Mary tasked Sarah with creating a customer service manual, outlining expectations for interactions and handling complaints. Sarah eagerly took on the responsibility, diving into her new role with an energy Mary hadn't seen before. With the groundwork laid, Mary turned her attention to hiring new staff. She wanted people who understood that jewelry was not just about selling luxury, it was about creating meaningful experiences. Mary instructed Sarah to post job listings emphasizing the store's new mission. Within days, applications began pouring in. Mary personally interviewed each candidate. She wasn't looking for resumes filled with luxury retail experience, she sought individuals with kindness, patience, and a genuine desire to connect with people. One of the first candidates to stand out was Paul, a young man with a background in hospitality. When Mary asked him why he wanted to work at Radiant Gem Jewelers, his response was simple yet heartfelt. I believe every customer deserves to be treated with respect. No matter who they are. I want to help create moments that make people feel valued. Mary smiled. That's exactly what we're looking for. Another candidate, Elena, impressed Mary with her warmth and sincerity. I love helping people find something special, Elena said. Jewelry isn't just an object, it carries stories, memories, and emotions. I want to be part of that. Mary knew immediately that Elena was the right fit. Over the course of a week, Mary assembled a team that shared her vision. Each new hire brought a sense of optimism and enthusiasm that was infectious. The team's first meeting was filled with a sense of possibility as Mary addressed them. Radiant Gem Jewelers isn't just a store, it's a place where people come to celebrate life's special moments, she said. Our job is to honor those moments. No matter who walks through our doors. Let's make this a store where everyone feels welcome. The team's applause was genuine. And for the first time, Mary felt that the store was beginning to reflect the vision she had carried in her heart. As the days passed, the changes in the store became evident. The harsh, glaring lights were softened to create a more inviting ambience. Mary had the displays rearranged to make them more accessible, ensuring that customers could browse without feeling intimidated. A new section called Kind Hands was introduced, featuring affordable yet beautiful pieces, perfect for those who came with modest budgets but deep intentions. The transformation extended beyond aesthetics. Sarah led intensive training sessions, ensuring every employee understood the importance of listening to customers and addressing their needs with patience and respect. Elena quickly emerged as a natural with customers, her bright smile and genuine warmth winning over even the most hesitant shoppers. One afternoon, a middle-aged woman entered the store, her worn coat and hesitant demeanor mirroring Mary's own experience from weeks before. Elena greeted her warmly and guided her to the Kind Hands section. The woman left with a simple silver bracelet and a radiant smile, her gratitude palpable. Mary watched the interaction from afar, her heart swelling with pride. As word of the store's changes spread, so did its reputation. Customers began to notice and appreciate the warmth and professionalism of the new team. Radiant Gem Jewelers was no longer just a luxury store, it was becoming a place where people felt seen and valued. For Mary, the store's transformation was more than just a professional achievement, it was a deeply personal victory. Every smile, every heartfelt thank you from a customer reminded her why she had fought so hard. The work wasn't done, but Mary knew they were on the right path. Radiant Gem Jewelers was thriving. But for Mary, the transformation of the store was just the beginning. Sitting in her small, sunlit office one morning, she gazed at a framed photograph of her granddaughter Emma. It was a reminder of the simple, heartfelt purpose that had driven her journey, creating something meaningful that extended far beyond material possessions. The store was now a place where customers felt welcomed and valued, regardless of their background or appearance. Yet, Mary knew there was still more she could do. She wanted Radiant Gem Jewelers to be more than just a business. It had the potential to become a beacon of kindness, a place that inspired change not only within its walls but in the wider community. That afternoon, Mary called for a meeting with her staff. The group gathered in the newly renovated training room, the soft lighting and warm colors creating an inviting space. Elena and Paul sat side by side, their enthusiasm palpable. Sarah, who had grown into her role as a mentor, looked on with pride as the newer staff members settled in. I want to thank each of you for your hard work and dedication. Mary began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. This store has become a reflection of the values we hold dear: respect, sincerity, and inclusivity. But I believe we can do even more. Radiant Gem Jewelers should not only celebrate life's special moments but also give back to the community that surrounds us. The staff exchanged curious but eager glances. What do you mean, Mrs. Taylor? Elena asked. Mary leaned forward, her hands resting on the table. I want us to establish initiatives that make a real difference. For example, I'd like to create a scholarship fund for underprivileged students. We can call it the Bracelets of Hope Scholarship, funded by a portion of our profits. This will help young people pursue their dreams, just as we've pursued ours here. The room buzzed with excitement as the idea took shape. Paul chimed in, his voice brimming with energy. We could also organize workshops, maybe something for older women who want to learn crafts or jewelry making. It could give them a source of income and a sense of purpose. That's a wonderful idea, Mary said, nodding. We could partner with local community centers to make it happen. And what about hosting an annual customer appreciation event? Something where we celebrate not just our success but the people who make it possible. The staff eagerly added their ideas. From charity drives to offering discounts to teachers and first responders. By the end of the meeting, a plan had formed, a vision that extended the values of the store into the community. Over the next few months, these initiatives began to take shape. The Bracelets of Hope Scholarship was announced with much fanfare, drawing attention from local media. Applications poured in, and the first recipient, a bright-eyed young woman named Sophia, was introduced at a small ceremony in the store. Her dream of studying design had seemed out of reach until now. As Mary handed her the scholarship certificate, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. The workshops for older women quickly became a cornerstone of Radiant Gem Jewelers outreach. Women from diverse backgrounds gathered in a cozy space behind the store to learn skills such as beading, wire work, and basic jewelry crafting. Elena and Sarah volunteered to teach, and soon the women began selling their creations in local markets, earning both income and pride in their work. The annual customer appreciation event was another triumph. Mary and her team transformed the store into a welcoming space filled with laughter, free gifts, and storytelling. Customers shared how their purchases marked significant milestones, engagements, anniversaries, and births. One elderly man, teary-eyed, recounted how a small pendant he had bought for his late wife years ago still brought him comfort. The event was a testament to the deep emotional connections that jewelry could create. Mary also reached out to her rural hometown, using the store as a platform to support small artisans by showcasing their handmade jewelry. The Kind Hands section of the store now featured their work, creating opportunities for them to reach a broader audience while giving customers unique pieces with meaningful stories. Radiant Gem Jewelers quickly became known as much for its mission as for its exquisite jewelry. The media celebrated Mary as a trailblazer, a woman who had turned a painful experience into a force for good. Interviews and articles highlighted her journey, emphasizing the profound lesson she had embodied: true success comes not from wealth but from how you uplift others. One evening, as the store's lights dimmed and the staff prepared to leave, Mary lingered by the window. The bustling Chicago street outside seemed quieter now, more peaceful. Sarah approached her, a warm smile on her face. "Mrs. Taylor, the changes you've made here, they've changed me too," Sarah said softly. "For the first time, I feel like I'm part of something meaningful." Mary turned to her, her eyes glistening. "We all are, Sarah. And it's just the beginning." As the team bid each other goodnight, Mary took one last look around the store. It was no longer just a place for transactions. It was a place where dreams were nurtured, dignity was restored, and love was celebrated. Mary knew the work would never truly be finished. But for the first time, she felt that Radiant Gem Jewelers was not just a store, it was a legacy. Mary's journey with Radiant Gem Jewelers was more than a personal triumph, it became a symbol of what kindness and determination could achieve. From a simple woman dismissed by society, she had turned a moment of humiliation into an inspiring legacy of change. The store was no longer just a business, it was a sanctuary of respect, inclusivity, and love. Under Mary's leadership, Radiant Gem Jewelers thrived as a community hub, a place where everyone, no matter their background, could feel valued. The initiatives she started, scholarships, workshops, and the Kind Hands section, empowered people to dream bigger and live with dignity. Customers came not only to buy jewelry but also to connect with a story that touched their hearts. In the end, Mary's transformation wasn't just about a store. It was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, one person's courage can ignite change. She showed that respect and empathy are treasures far more valuable than gold or gems. If this story moved you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Life Stories for more tales of inspiration and hope. Your support motivates us to bring you heartwarming stories that make a difference. Thank you for watching.